If one of the areas of life that you want to improve is relationship, there's a whole dynamic to that. So as humans, we're very responsive. We're responsive to things like frequency. Have you ever had that moment where you met somebody strange, you introduced to them in a cafe, in a shop, whatever it might be, and then after that 1 minute meeting, that 1 hour meeting, whatever that was, you walk away thinking, I didn't resonate with that person. That person didn't make me feel good. Well, what was going on there was that vibrating fields were clashing with each other. And vibrating fields are like magnets. They either attract each other or they repel each other, whatever that might be. So therefore, by researching that person and their life and looking at them, you will find out that they're completely unaligned with whatever it is that you're doing in your life. And that's why there was no synchronicity between both. Now, you come along then and you're in a relationship with your children, a relationship with your parents, a relationship with your work colleagues, a relationship with your partner. And what happens is that the kind of intrinsic nature of familiarity kicks in. And the word familiarity comes from family. So we become familiar with who we are by the indoctrination in the morning of our life as being raised, by not being familiar with who we are, but by being familiar with who we are told that we are. And we literally become the people that we are told that we are, and we create that signature, that electromagnetic signature that resonates and sits in the electromagnetic field that surrounds you, that walks around this earth and walks around this planet. And that field of energy, that signature, is absolutely like DNA. It's like a fingerprint signature, and it is very unique to you. So not only do you carry your own DNA that's unique to you, your own fingerprint that is unique to you, but you equally carry your own magnetic field that is equally unique to you. When your field comes along then and it clashes with somebody else's field, well then that's where there's an anomaly between both people, and that's where there's disagreement or just an unlikeness to each other, whatever that might be. Now you come along and you're in your relationship with your mom, your dad, your partner, your husband, whoever. And in that relationship, there is familiarity. Those people in your world have become familiar with the signature of who you are. And the signature of who you are is your personality. And your personality determines your responses to all of those people around you. So for example, if you drive down the freeway with me in a car tomorrow and somebody cuts you off and you beep at them and you growl at them out the window and then you drive on, and then you pick me up the next day and we're going to go on that same drive. Well, I know by getting into that car with you that if somebody cuts you off, exactly how you're going to respond. Now, if I take exception to that and I don't like the way that you responded to them, I might say to you in the drive, hey, that wasn't the greatest way to respond to that person. Maybe you should try something else, because that's the way that I might deal with that situation. So now we're back in the same car the next day. We're heading down the road. You cut somebody off, somebody cuts you off, you do the same thing to them. Not only do I know your response to them, but equally you're now expecting my response to you. So we're building up this familiarity and we're becoming very familiar with each other. So therefore, there's what's called an expectation. Each time you do the cutting off or you beat the person that cuts you off, I'm going to do the same thing that I've been doing to you, and we both become familiar with each other. I know what to expect from you, and you know what to expect from me, and therefore there's a relationship between our synchronicity and there's a relationship between our responses, and that's called a relationship. A relationship is a familiarity on the footprint signature that we leave on the earth, by virtue of our personality, how we respond to things, and by virtue of how we magnetize other people and the electromagnetic field of responses that we create around us. So now you come along and you're in your relationship and you might declare to the world that you want to improve your relationship with your mom and dad, improve your relationship with your children, improve your relationship with your partner, with your work colleagues, whatever. All you have to do now is to break the cycle of expectation, is to break the cycle of familiarity. Because those people who've been responding to you for the last 5, 10, and 20 years will keep responding to you because you were the same you responding back to them. So you come along now and you start to write down all the people in your life in different columns that are pushing your buttons. And you write down your partner, how do they push your buttons? And you write down your kids, how do they push your buttons? And underneath that column, you start to write down how you're responding back to them. Because there's a whole familiarity, there's a whole signature, a predictable nature of the universe, and a predictable nature of the universe of your relationship. And in doing that then, number one, you start to reflect on why they're responding to you that way. For example, if you grew up in a relationship and your dad was non-responsive, he was unemotional, he wasn't present, he wasn't there. Well, what happened was that your dad picked up that personality trait based on what he'd experienced growing up in his life. So somebody wasn't there for him. Somebody didn't show him love. So he hasn't learned how to show himself, and he hasn't learned how to show love. And then he reflects that back to you. So now, to discharge that emotion, I just go back to when my dad was living in his childhood, in his relationship with his guardians, in his morning of his life, and I start to see that the adult him who's teaching me is just a reflection of the person that thought him. In other words, my dad isn't even being himself in raising me, he was being other people. He didn't want to disconnect from me, he didn't want to be not there for me, he didn't want to be disassociated to me, he was only being him. So now I discharge that emotion by understanding why my dad was like that. Now you do that with those same people in your life, your partner, your children, and why they're all, and your work colleagues, and why they're all responding to you the way that they do. Well, they respond to you the way that they do, not because they want to, it's only because they know to. And that know to came from their experiences in the morning of their life with their early childhood guardians. So they're just expressing the signature of the guardians from their life. They don't want to be that way with you. They want to live in a loving relationship. They don't want the argument. They don't want the turmoil. They don't want the difficulty. They're simply just displaying the difficulty of their raising in their life. If you can then come along and reflect on that truth, reflect on the fact that they're just not being them, they just don't know any different, because the fact of the matter is they actually aren't being the real them, they're being the unauthentic them. So now you start to excuse away why they're responding to you that way. You then come along, and every time now that these people are pushing your buttons and you push them back and they push yours and you push them back, you start to change your response. And you do it out of understanding and being grateful for the way that they are. And when you do that, then they literally stop responding back to you, because the old you that walks around in your bag of bones and bag of skin that you call you has literally changed your response to them. So therefore, when they push your button and you don't push the button back, you're becoming a new you. And the more that you habitually do that, and the more that you habitually become the new you, literally, you can stand back as though you're sitting in a cinema, watching a movie of all of these characters in your life, and watching how the characters in the movie change. And all of a sudden you'll realize that not only were you pretending that you were in charge of your own life, but you were factually in charge of other people's responses back to you, because everybody in that circle of people, in those different hemispheres of people that you know, will stop responding to you the way that they were, because the old you will no longer be in existence, and the new you will be in existence, that new, more understanding you, and watch as everybody around you starts to become more understanding of you. And those are the people that will say to you, you're changing. I don't know what it is about you, but you're changing. And the point is, you don't have to let them know what it is about you that you're changing. You just have to know that you're changing. And when you've had that magnificent change, then you can go out and teach them what you have done to change your life, and to turn your home into heaven, and to turn your relationships into a heavenly relationship. So go do the work, write it out on your sheets of paper, write down the people that push your buttons, how they push your buttons, what your responses are, why they are like they are and where they got it from, and then how you're going to change your response back to each of those different groups of people that you have, and watch how much in control of your life that you were and you didn't even realize it. That's the magic of you at display right here when you do that work. Thanks for watching the video.